News out of Rafah in southern Gaza. Chaotic scenes have unfolded as huge crowds tried to reach a controversial aid group's food distribution point. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as it's known, which is backed by Israel and the United States, began its operations in southern Gaza earlier on Tuesday. This despite allegations of politicizing aid and not having the experience or capacity to bring relief to more than 2 million people. The United Nations and other aid groups say the organization does not abide by humanitarian principles and could serve to further displace people from their homes. Months of no food, no fuel, no medicine or shelter being allowed into Gaza caused great difficulty for Palestinians, and we've been hearing from some of them.
We have been dying of starvation. We have to feed our children. What else can we do? We saw people running and we followed them, even if it meant taking a risk. And it was scary. But fear is not worse than starvation. We are hungry.
I had a healthier body, but look at me now. I have nothing to eat. I have nothing to give my kids. We did not ask for war or anything. We just want food.
Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud reports from Gaza City.
We spent the past hour just answering questions and responding to inquiries from people here in Gaza and the northern territories who are eagerly asking questions about whether distribution centers are going to be set up here in Gaza City for much needed aid and food supplies and medical supplies for more than 80 days, 80 plus days now, without a drop of aid coming into the Gaza Strip. What we've seen in the past couple of days was only trucks that were coordinated for just to deliver food supplement to patients inside the hospital. Other than this, the northern territories have been deprived of proper access to flour, to bread, to other basic necessities due to the ongoing blockade that is only a few miles away. The blockade is on the Kerm Abu Salem crossing that is only a few miles away, where thousands of trucks are stuck at the other side filled with the critical materials. But the other side here, a lot of families are going hungry. On the other hand, the scenes in Rafah from Tel Sultan area emerging heartbreaking images of hungry people storming the distribution center, trying to get their hands on whatever is available and go back to their family with something to feed them. The food parcel contain only a small amount that is not nearly sufficient to feed families, small families in the Strip, let alone extended larger families across the Strip. This has been very heartbreaking and also led to raising questions about the safety and the dangers and the risk involved in turning up to these distribution sites managed by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, heavily secured by the Israeli military on the ground. What we've seen as people stormed the center, tried to get their hands on the food that is available, was quite understandable, given that for the past 80 days people did not eat well, did not have access to any of the food supplies. But unfortunately, as many of the family members confirmed to us, more than half of the crowd there went back to their shelters, to temporary shelters, to their tents, to their homes in southern part of the Strip, to central area, without getting the food parcel because it was too dangerous for them to show up. One eyewitness described that walking through the barbed wire fence set up by the Israeli military and the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation felt more walking into a military base, not a humanitarian aid distribution point. Hani Mahmoud, Al Jazeera from Gaza City, Palestine.
Hamas has reacted to the scenes from the food distribution point in Rafah. The group says the Israeli occupation's project to distribute aid in the so-called buffer zones has failed disastrously. Hamas says that what happened today is conclusive evidence of the occupation's failure to manage the humanitarian crisis it deliberately created through a policy of starvation, siege, and bombing. This constitutes a continuation of a fully fledged genocide under international law. The Israeli military has released footage of a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution center just hours before the chaos unfolded. So let's take a look. This center here is intended to serve hundreds of thousands of people who had received little to no food for months and replace those established by the United Nations and other independent charities. Al Jazeera's Hamdah Salhut joins us now from the Jordanian capital, Amman. You're there, Hamdah, because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and the occupied West Bank. So, look, these distribution centers under the umbrella of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, this is Israel's big initiative in terms of delivering food to Palestinians, which they have deliberately blocked for almost 3 months. And it broke down within the first few hours. What is Israel saying?
Well, the Israeli government hasn't really commented on the disaster that happened in southern Gaza this afternoon, but the Israeli military did say that order was restored quickly after the chaos did ensue. They're saying that the military did fire into the air to help try and secure the perimeter and to get crowds to disperse, adding that the American contractors who were running the distribution site did also fire their weapons into the air to try and control the crowd. But the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation also released a statement saying that the images that were shown and what happened was essentially blown out of proportion and that order was restored after a short period of time, and that due to the large influx of people, they were just trying to get out of the way, essentially retreat, which is why they left the area to let Palestinians go and get the aid. Now, of course, the pictures that have been coming out of Gaza tell a much different story. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has come under a lot of fire, a lot of skepticism for being unethical, for not being transparent. There's been a lot of question raised about who exactly is funding it and why this is the aid distribution mechanism that's put in place when there are already so many different channels to do so that Palestinians have relied on for decades.
It's just past 10 p.m. in Gaza, and this is expected to resume tomorrow. So, Hamdah, can you describe for our viewers how the system is designed, right? How it's supposed to work, this distribution, and what Israel says that it wants to achieve with this?
Well, there are 4 distribution centers for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and every day from a certain time period, Palestinians can go and essentially pick up this parcel that Israel says has enough food in it for a family for around 5 days. But Palestinians in Gaza say that it would perhaps last a family 2 days, given the contents that is inside and given how many family members you have. So how this is going to work? Well, Israel secures the perimeter in which the aid is going in, and then it is taken to these distribution sites in which these American contractors who've been hired essentially secure these distribution centers for the Palestinians to go. But the images that have come out within the last 12 hours show Palestinians lining up in sort of fenced areas, looking like caged animals, to try and get to this really life-saving aid. These are people who have been hungry for more than 3 months. And in fact, this is a war that's been going on for nearly 600 days. And throughout that time period, the Israelis did not allow a ton of humanitarian aid before the blockade on the Gaza Strip began. And it's also worth mentioning that there's been outcry from the Israeli opposition against the Israeli government, saying that they are the architects, that the coalition in power are the ones who orchestrated this entire mechanism to try and get access to all of these humanitarian points under the guise of neutrality. And it's something the Israelis are coming under fire for. And it's worth mentioning that the head of the World Food Program, Cindy McCain, says that she's never received any sort of proof from the Israelis that Hamas is taking this aid, that it's looting it, that it's selling it on the black market. She's never received any sort of proof to back up those claims by the Israeli army, which is why this entire mechanism, the Israelis say, was started in the first place.
Hamdah Salhut reporting from Amman, Jordan. Thank you very much.